overloading. Here we will start from our main program, that is n. N is equal to int. Enter the number of complex numbers. Suppose the value what we have given is 3 for n. Now total is equal to, we are taking one variable called total. Total is equal to complex of 0 comma 0. So what is this complex? Complex is a class which we have defined over here. Okay. So when total, what kind of variable it is? This is the object of complex class. Okay. So when you are creating an object, we are passing some parameters to it. So what does it mean? Here we are calling it constructor. Okay. So now we will see where is the constructor of this class. So the first function is the constructor. So define double underscore init double underscore. This is called as a constructor. So what is the meaning of constructor? Which initializes the object, which constructs the object. So when we are creating an object here, at the same time it has to initialize its variables also. So with what values? With 0 and 0. We are passing 0 and 0. So what are those 0 and 0? The real is 0, imaginary is also 0. To these two variables we are sending these values. So now what is this self? Self represents the current object. So what is the current object? Current object is this total. Okay. So now what is the work of this? The current object's real part is initialized or assigned to the past value. Again self dot imaginary, the current object's imaginary value is set to 0, right? So now total. So total is a complex number. It also has a real and imaginary parts, two parts. So now what values will be set here? 0 and 0. Okay. Now so for I in range n, so for 3 times this for loop will iterate. We will see what happens. So now print f string, format string, complex number I plus 1. First it will display like this, complex number I plus 1. For the first iteration I value is 0, 0 plus 1 is 1. This is what it will display, complex number 1. Then we have to enter. R is equal to float of input, enter real part. So first we will be giving the real part of the first complex number. So suppose I am giving the real part as 2. Again next im variable which contains the imaginary part. Suppose the imaginary part I am giving is 3. This complex number is nothing but 2 plus 3j. So here actually in Python we represent the complex numbers as like this, 3j. Usually in mathematics we write it as 2 plus I3, but here in Python we represent like this, 2 plus 3j, like this. Okay, first number we have given. After taking the first number, what it has to do? C is equal to complex of r comma im. So now it has to convert it to a complex object. Okay. So we are constructing is nothing but converting is nothing but creating an object of complex. Now C is equal to complex of r comma im. Again its constructor is called when you are passing some parameters along with the class name. So now C also contains real and imaginary parts. Okay. Next, total is equal to total plus C. So what is this total? Total is already an existing complex number which is having a 0 as real and 0 as imaginary part. Now to that we have to add one more complex number C. Okay. So these both are objects. On objects we are applying this operator plus. Okay. So in order to make any operator to work on the objects, we have to overload that operator. How should we overload that operator? With the help of this overloading function. Def double underscore add double underscore. Okay, the first parameter should always be self, means the current object. The other means this is some other variable. In this place you can give any variable name. So into this after plus whatever you are passing, that object will be sent into the other. Yes, into self, here the total will be there. So left hand side object will be there in the self, and right hand side of the plus operator will go into other. Now what happens in this method? It is returning, what it is returning, first it is adding both the real parts of self and other, and again it is adding imaginary parts of both the objects, and again with those values it is forming a complex object now. So it is returning a new object after adding real parts of both the objects and adding imaginary parts of both the objects. So now that is sent back into the total. Okay. So now total contains what? 0 plus 2 is 2. 0 plus 3 is 3. This is the complex number we have now. This is the first iteration. That is done. In the second iteration, once again it will display complex number 2. Means we have to enter the second complex number. So suppose the real part what I am giving is minus 1, and here the imaginary part also minus 2 I have given. The second complex number values I have given. So now first what we have to do, we have to create an object of the complex number first. C is equal to complex of r comma imaginary. So now next part is add that complex number, add this complex number to this existing total complex number. Okay, so for that we have to use plus. So now total is equal to total plus C. So when we are calling this plus operator, this function is called. This operator overloading function is called. So now existing total object is passed into self and C is passed into other. So once again what is this doing? It is adding both the real parts and adding both the imaginary parts, and these two values are sent to the a new complex object created. So when these are sent, what happens? Again this init function, the constructor is called. So in that constructor what happens? That new object, actually here this is a new object, we are creating a new object. That new object's real value will be sum of the real values of self and other, and its imaginary will be the sum of the imaginary parts of self and other. Okay, a new object is created and that is returned back into total. Okay, so now the new total will be 2 minus 1 is 1, 3 minus 2 is 1. This is new total. Again, next iteration, it will display complex number 3. Suppose here I have given the real part as 3 and the imaginary part as minus 2. Okay. So first these two values are to be taken and a new complex object should be created. See, now a new object is created, and then this total equal to the existing total complex number, a new C, a new complex number should be added, right? So here total is one object, C is one object. So now both the object values are to be added. So when we are using this plus operator on objects, its operator overloading function will be called. Again same thing, into self total will be sent and into other C will be sent. Again their values are taken and a new object is created here and it is sent back into the total. Okay, so now when it returns, what value will be there? Minus 3 plus 1 is minus 2, and now 1 minus 2 is minus 1. Finally inside the total minus 2 and minus 1 will be there. Okay, so all the three iterations are done. Now after coming out of the for loop, what are we doing? We are printing. Print sum of all complex numbers total. Okay, directly here we are trying to print the object. So if without using this double underscore str underscore, If this function is not existing, it will generate an it won't generate an error. It will actually display the object's address on the screen, but we don't want it. We want to display the value of this total object. So to do so, we have to actually define this function called double underscore str double underscore, and self is compulsory. So self is the current object. Okay. So what are we writing in this function or method? Here, in whichever way we want to display the result, that we can write here. Okay, so first what are we doing? We are deciding on the sign. Which sign? Whether that is a plus bj or a minus bj, depending on the values of the real and imaginary parts. Okay, so sign is equal to plus if self dot imaginary part is greater than or equal to 0. Here only if the second part, imaginary part, is positive, then we have to put one plus over there. If it is negative, anyways the sign is there in front of that number, we don't need to put any sign. That is the thing here. Sign equal to plus if self dot imaginary is greater than or equal to 0, else nothing. Only open and closing brackets. That should be there in sign. Now what to print? It is returning f string. Self dot real. First real part it has to uh, display. First real part should be there, and then sign should come, and then self dot imaginary part should come, and then here I. If you want, you can give I or j, anything you can give here. Okay, so that is returned back here in the place of total object. Okay, that's why we have to use double underscore star underscore double underscore to display an object's value. Whatever value we want to display, that you can give in this particular method. Okay, so let us run and see. So enter the number of complex numbers. I'll give it as two numbers I will give for simplicity. First one is 2 plus 3j. The second complex number is minus 1 minus 1 minus 5j. Okay, so now finally what should we get? 2 minus 1, 1 minus 2i. Okay, yes. So see here, sum of all complex numbers is equal to 1.0 minus 2.0i. Okay, so when we are displaying the object, it has to display the complex number representation. Thank you.